welcome to the world's greatest Bronze Age Spider-Man podcast. What is it called again? Here comes the Spider-Cast. I'm your co-host, Mikalaini, and as always, I'm joined by...
Joshua Merfell. Today we're going to be taking a look at Spidey comics from August of 1988.
Yeah! And we've got a special guest. Actually, she's here every week, G.I. Jolie.
What the heck?
This is the best
Madness.
opening
Sorry.
ever.
Everybody's drunk except for me, apparently.
We have
All
a special
right, and
guest.
also joining
Scratch
us.
that, we have a guest.
A very special guest, also joining us for the 141st time, Bex Luthor.
I don't think I've been here that many.
That's true, you've missed a few.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh my god.
Oh. Oh my goodness.
This episode is off,
What a
off
great
the
start.
rails.
What's this
to the
podcast called?
episode.
Who knows? Wow. Okay, this one's gonna be a banger, everybody.
Oh my
I
god.
blame
my God.
Jolie.
What happened?
I went to her lovely store, Tastemaker Studios / The Long Box, and I bought too many delicious sodas from there. Also, I'm just a disaster of a human being.
Oh,
Oh my god, that's amazing.
okay. Anyway,
Actually embarrassing. I was gonna make fun of Mike for saying something dumb, and then I ruined it by being an idiot.
Oh, that sounds like every week. Okay, so,
No.
and now we introduce our very actual special guest for the second or third time ever, Mike Dell.
Yes, thank you. Michael, it's always an honor to be invited on with your real friends. You know, 'cause
Yeah.
you take me from the slums of flea market fantasy,
Yes.
and you put me
None
on
of those-
Spider-Cast.
None of those people are here. Real friends? I don't think. I don't.
I don't actually have any real friends. I only make friends by reviewing comic books. That's it.
The man has a Spider-Man podcast. He has no friends.
This is true.
I think this is
Anyway.
my third time on the show, Michael. I think.
Third? Okay.
Yeah, it's.
Thank-
I think it's been a couple times now.
Well, thankfully
So-
I have a database, so I can confirm that.
I'm very
as we-
excited because usually when I come on here, all the books are terrible. So,
Michael, you got to push up your glasses when you said that.
I have a
that?
database.
I have a database I could check.
Don't worry, I'm getting it right now. But anyway,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
well, while you're looking that up, we're going to be starting off this episode talking about Spider-Man number 41. It's the second part of the Cult of Love story.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be recapping that one real quick. I'm going to go as quickly as possible because I genuinely feel all three of these comics were just so dense and so many like things happened that I'm going to try and like summarize it real quick. So we start off the issue. MJ has invited one of her friends over to like hang out, and she's there to meet Peter as well. But Peter is out as Spider-Man currently trying to save Betty, who has been like trapped in this cult. So we left off, we pick up now where we left off last issue, where Spider-Man is in this like house where this cult is, and he's like trying to get Betty to leave, and then everybody wakes up and all of these guys start like piling on Spider-Man, attacking him all at once. So he's able to kind of push everybody off of him. He runs over to try and stop Betty. He's like talking to her. He like webs up her hands and feet and tries to like kidnap her out of the place to save her. And then this guy turns the corner with a flamethrower and starts trying to burn both Spider-Man and Betty alive because he's holding Betty. While he's distracted, Betty actually pulls Peter's mask off. So he kind of has no choice but to cover his face, drop Betty, and then escape through a grate in the wall. So he's like in the vents. We cut over to Ben Urich. He is at like a realtor's office, and he's like doing some investigative journalism, and he's like talking to this woman about this love cult, and she's kind of like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Don't talk to me about this. Anyways, we're closed. Get out of here. So she kind of like shoos him out, and he's like, that's real fucking suspicious. We cut back over to the cult. The guy with the flamethrower is kind of getting like in trouble for making a flamethrower. How he did this in the facility, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. We cut over to Spider-Man. He's going through the vault, and we meet what is assumed to be the cult leader. I can't remember what they call him. They call him like teacher or leader or something like that.
I think
so
it's teacher,
yeah. So it's we kind of figure out that he's in charge. They're like, yeah, we're not really worried about Spider-Man because what is he going to do? Go to the cops? We're just going to get him arrested for trespassing. So he's kind of like smug and thinks he's in control. So Spidey keeps crawling through the vents. We cut back over to MJ, and she's still hanging out with her friend. And then she MJ convinces her friend to stay the night so she can meet Peter. So she gives her a pair of pajamas and lets her sleep in their bed, and then MJ takes the couch. Peter gets into a storage closet, and he puts on a disguise. He puts on one of the uniforms of the cult leaders. We cut back to the apartment, and MJ's friend is sneaking around, and MJ wakes up, and then she pretends like she's just trying to go to the washroom, and then runs into the washroom, and MJ goes back to sleep. Then we cut over. Flash is at the Daily Bugle trying to get through to Kate Cushing. And she kind of to tell her about what's going on with Betty. So she brings him up to the offices and introduces him to Ben Urich, and the two of them decide that they're going to team up to figure out what's going on with this cult. Again, we're back in the apartment. It's the next morning. MJ lies to her friend and says that, oh yeah, Peter came back really late and left early because she doesn't want to say that he was out all night because it would look suspicious. Why would your husband be out all night without having to explain that he's Spider-Man? Again, we cut back to the cult. Peter's outside doing work, and then one of the members kind of shouts that the leader is going to be teacher is going to be performing a miracle. So everybody runs into the facility. We cut over to Ben Urich and Flash as they're interviewing. I can't remember what his whole deal is. He used to be part of the cult. Or something, yeah. He's a priest, and I think he has something. He used to be in the cult or something like that.
He's deprogrammed people that were in cults. That's what he says. Right.
So he knows a little bit of what this whole love cult is about. So Ben and Flash are talking to him and interviewing him. So they're getting information about what happens at these miracle sessions at the same time as the miracle session is playing out. So I'm just going to say what happens at the miracle session, but we're cutting back and forth at this point. So Flash and Ben are learning this at the same time as Peter is learning this actually in the cult. We see a bunch of guys pull out this man, and he's laid out on a table, and teacher says that he's going to heal him and take his cancer out of his body. And we see him raise his hand and plunge it into this guy's stomach. And he pulls out masses of cancer. And then afterwards, he kind of puts his hands on him to heal him, and he wipes away the blood, and there's no incision marks on his stomach whatsoever. And it's presumed that he is healed. And it turns out actually what it is there's a water balloon full of fake blood that he pops when he pretends to plunge his hand into this guy's stomach. And then he uses the balloon that's full of blood as the fake cancerous mass, and he discards it. And everybody in the audience believes that this is real. And the man describing this to Ben and Flash kind of say this is how he convinces people to join and stay in the cult. And usually after seeing that, you're there for life. And then we cut back on the last panel of Peter Parker's shocked face, and we're left to question whether Peter Parker is going to be joining this cult or not in next issue.
Okay, I'm just going to say quickly, there's a million cliche ways to end a comic, but this one, even though I've read the story many times, I completely forgot that it was coming, and I think it's a great ending to this story. This part 2 of a 4-part story. I thought this was a really good chapter, and I actually thought the art stood out. Even though Alex Saviuk is always good, I thought the art was really good this issue. But I want to know, what did our special guest, Mike Dell, think of this issue?
Yes. Well, first of all, I did like the ending, like you said, except it kind of makes Peter, he's an idiot. This Peter Parker.
Yeah.
It makes him look really dumb. because he's apparently brainwashed by watching this faith healer guy. But I did like the art, Michael. How did I never know about this guy's existence? What's his name? Alex Saviuk?
Alex Saviuk or Saviuk. He actually drew Web of Spider-Man from about number 35, I'm not kidding, to like 100 and something.
Yeah, like 119 or something. I was reading them, the longest run in the book's history, right?
Yes. And then he also did the daily strip.
Yeah, I learned that as well.
Yeah.
I wasn't reading Spider-Man at this time, so I never encountered his work at all. And but I really enjoyed his art. I thought it was good stuff.
He's a classic artist. Yep.
Yeah.
And
that was my big takeaway.
The story?
The story, I thought it was solid. I'm not a big fan of Peter David. I think we've established that in the past.
The one Hulk comic you read. That's right. Okay.
Well, I read a few others.
Okay.
But this was fine. It seemed like MJ was going to do porn, though. Did you see that? Did you pick up on that?
Yes.
A little more adult.
It seemed like her buddy there, the other model, she's like, hey, I do some revealing photo shoots. And MJ's like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. So that's something.
We'll see what happens, right?
For
also about this Betty.
$5,000, I'd do it too.
And this Betty, what's her name? Betty Brant? Is that her name?
Yeah, it is Betty Brant, but I think at this time she's married to Ned Leeds, so it's
Betty Brant Leeds. Betty Leeds.
Yeah, Betty Leeds, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, now I believe the last time I was on this show, we were doing a story about Flash Thompson smacking her around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Different woman, but yeah.
Oh, it's a different. That wasn't Betty. I thought that was Betty.
Oh no, he smacked
it's
around.
Shashan.
Did he? Okay, I thought he smacked
His
her
own girlfriend.
too.
Because he's cheating on Shashan with Betty, who's cheating on Ned with Flash.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for straightening that back.
Yeah. So he thought that Shoshan was cheating on him when she wasn't. So he got upset and hit her. When in reality, he's the one that's cheating on her.
All right. So. And now this Betty's mixed up in a love cult.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it seems that Spidey Comics at the time did not know how to write women without making them just crazy, I guess, is the best word. Like they a lot of the times in these Spidey comics, they don't have like good character arcs. They kind of write them into a corner where, well, I guess we can explain this away by saying it's woman's crazy, am I right? And it really kind of blows. Like, it's also especially so weird because this cult is full of just dudes. And
that is a little weird.
She's the only woman there. Like, it just doesn't make sense that it's her. I don't know. Like,
the other thing that I was a little confused about is he's all nervous about her, Betty, recognizing him as Peter Parker. So what does he do? He stays there as Peter Parker. Like I think she probably recognized him walking around there. Hey, look, there's Peter Parker.
No, but they've already been in the previous issue together.
Oh, okay. That makes sense then.
Yeah.
Really? Why did he get in a disguise then at all? You know what I'm saying?
Well, why did he disguise himself as Spider-Man?
No, he was Spider-Man. He lost his mask. Then he went into that little closet or whatever and got like a little outfit and he put on.
I don't think that he was like pretending to be in the cult, but I'm trying to remember what happened last issue. He definitely showed up and tracked Betty down to this cult.
Yeah, but then he changes into a cult person outfit, but it's just his regular Peter Parker face, and Betty is right next to him the whole time.
It makes no sense. All right, whatever. So anyway, hey, Jolie, what do you think about this?
What do I think about this book?
Yeah, I'll throw it to you.
I thought. No, I did like it because it was like more along the lines of the. Like the murder podcasts I listen to and like the true crime stuff. So like I kind of like dig what's happening. I feel like it's a little, now that he's like infiltrated the cult, he's doing like a pretty terrible job of doing that. Like, you remember that movie where Hermione Granger plays the wife of a man who's like been indoctrinated into a cult and she like has to sneak in?
Beauty and the Beast?
Yes.
Yes,
she did like a pretty good job of it illustrates like what you would have to do sort of if you had to go undercover. I think that movie did like a really good job, especially this is I'm comparing it now to something that no one else has seen. I also have severe brain fog currently. So I'm trying to talk myself out of this brain fog, and it's kind of like just kind of.
You're probably indoctrinated to a love cult. And you don't
Yeah.
realize it.
Well. Also, do you know what? The one thing I will say though is that we get to see that now that Peter's in there, we see that Betty's actually happy. And like she has not been happy since Ned died. And even then she wasn't really that happy when she was cheating on him either.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people think that they're happy when they first get involved in cults. Yeah.
Oh, I also want to point out one quick fact. I looked at the last issue, and Peter never actually makes an appearance. It's just Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So technically, Betty has not seen him yet.
Yeah.
Has not seen Peter.
Yeah, but that's because of her piss poor peripheral vision, because he's right fucking next to her.
Yeah, he's right there.
Yeah.
And like Spider-Man has said his name to her. So he's obviously said, hey, your friends are looking for you. Mm-hmm. How do you not recognize one of your best friend's voices?
Good point. Well, but then you could apply that to the entire history of Spider-Man and Superman and Batman, but we're not going to go that far.
I suppose so.
Well, you can't. Obviously, Batman alters his voice into a low growl or whisper.
Conceived by Michael Keaton, but anyway, yes.
As is consistent with the time of day or night.
He is also standing right in front of Betty in the actual, like, presentation, in the healing presentation. They're standing next to each other. It looks like she is leaning on his shoulder in one of the panels.
Let's just, the less said about that, the better, right?
Yeah,
she's brainwashed. She doesn't remember.
Yeah, she's brainwashed. There you go.
I mean, he could have just introduced, like, hey, what's up? I didn't realize you were part of this cult. Or something, you know? If you're trying to get information about your friend being in a cult, and you're going to pretend to be in the cult, might as well just flat out come out and be like, hey, I'm in the cult too.
Yeah, especially now that he's been indoctrinated. Or, like, he can pretend now that he's been indoctrinated.
Right.
Or even before the miracle, he could have pretended. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so we haven't heard from Bex Luthor yet.
Hi, I'm here. Yeah, you know, what of it? I didn't mind this one. It was probably the least offensive one of the bunch.
Least offensive one.
Mary Jane being sad that Peter's not there and worried about her is getting old. I'm tired of her just pining for him. Like, you're married already. Like, go do your own thing. I think this, like, back and forth where we keep, like, going back to her and her friend. It's just kind of, like, at least the cutting back to Ben Urich, it, like, makes sense in the plot of it. But again, it's just like, oh, Mary Jane's friend is snooping around her shit, I guess.
Yeah. I thought that maybe she is part of the cult and is trying to get MJ involved.
Her hair's too long. They cut all your hair off in the cult.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Maybe
where that's going to
she's
go.
like-
I can't remember.
Allison Mack, top level recruiter.
Yeah, she's just trying to get Mary Jane to do porn. She's not trying to get Mary Jane into a cult.
Right. Well, it is a love cult.
So
I don't
maybe that's
see
how
how.
they fund it. When
Yeah,
not enough of their members have don't have the funds or like the assets to liquidate to continue to fund the cult, they get the pretty ones to grow their hair out and recruit. They create
Oh, so like
entertainment for the
Hey,
masses.
MJ, how would you like to be your own boss?
what was that called? What was it called? It's called flirty fishing, right? I think that's what it was called for like that weird sex cult where they would send the prettiest of the women in the cult to go recruit men by having sex with them.
Oh, cool.
So,
Hey now.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Cults are wild. Also, like, this is very obviously a reference to a lot of different cult leaders, but the what was it? Jonestown guy, whatever his name was.
David Koresh?
He would fake miracles too, right? He would.
Oh, yeah,
people
they all
would-
do.
They
Jim
all
Jones.
do, but Jim
Jim
Jones.
Koresh is Waco, Texas.
They fake healings in like, churches in Windsor, but probably not to this extent, but yeah.
Yeah, Becca used to go to that church.
Don't mention my name in that church in the same sentence.
I mean, like...
That's a scary-ass place.
Yeah. Not by choice.
Shout out to the WFCU. Or no, Windsor Christian Fellowship, the other one, the other acronym.
Not the Windsor Credit Union.
No.
The Spitfires are involved too.
The Christian Fellowship. This cult goes deep. It's got OHL links. Yeah. That's an Ontario Hockey League for Mike Dell.
I knew that one. Yeah,
I
knew
love
that
this very specific local hockey cult that we've built. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike Dell. Go ahead, Jolie.
So that's why they shut down Jackrabbit Slims, because that's where all the flirty fishing happened.
Huh?
It all makes sense now.
Yes.
It's our Windsor conspiracy theory.
Mike Dell, have you ever heard of the Windsor Spitfires?
Yes, I have.
Oh, there you go. There's our hockey team.
Yeah, I'm aware.
I mean, a lot of NHL players have come from the Spitfires.
That's true, including Eddie Jovanovski.
Well, I was going to say, the whole cult is revolving around Taylor Hall, right? It's got to.
Taylor Hall.
This is the part of the podcast where we talk about local hockey teams.
Yes.
I can talk hockey if you want.
Exactly. See, this is a perfect podcast for Mike to be on.
Not today.
You have a hockey podcast. I can't imagine how you could keep up.
Well, we haven't talked hockey on that show in like 10 years.
Yeah, that's why I'm on it.
It started out as a hockey podcast. It's still named, a hockey podcast, but we rarely talk hockey on that. So.
I love it. A lot of people are like, "What podcast are you guesting on tonight? Let me know and I'll listen." I was like, "Well, it's called the LCS Hockey Radio Show."
It's only on AM radio. Yeah.
Never talk hockey.
Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm actually talking about Big Brother and Riverdale tonight.
Well, it's like, how often do we really talk about Spider-Man on this podcast?
That's true.
Like half the runtime, maybe less. But
yeah,
back to the Spider-Man.
Yeah, so none of you guys know who this girl is, her friend, like, she's not an established character.
No, this is her first introduction. She just is here now, I guess.
So she's 100% part of the cult.
I want to mention a couple things about the writing, because we talked about the art. I think we all love the art. Although Keith Williams' inks are not perfect for Alex Saviuk, I think his pencils are great. But there was also, just like last issue, there's quite a few silent panels that I really liked. Like, you remember when Ben Urich is kind of interrogating that woman, and he hits a little too close to home, and she kind of gives him that look. And he's like, yeah, actually, I'm going to leave. Remember that part?
Yeah.
She's in the cult, too.
Yeah, exactly. I love stuff like that. And there's also the silent panels when Mary Jane is at that woman's house. Or, sorry, no, she's at her house. Yeah, there's just some really good storytelling here. I really like it,
Mm-hmm. And you get one really great art Easter egg. Liebman's is the name of the real estate agency.
What is it?
Liebman's. Isn't that Stan Lee's real last name?
Lieber.
No, it's
Lieberman.
Lieber. Stan Lieber.
Well,
yeah.
Close enough then.
I had the same thought, though, at first, Julie. I was like, is that Lieber? And then I was like, oh, no, that's not.
Yeah, that's what I get for not looking it up.
Also, yeah, I gotta say, I love the ending, the way that what's happening is being narrated in real time. Like, I just love that little device when movies or shows do that. Yeah,
that's definitely the best part of this issue, in my opinion, is the unfolding of what's happening while we're getting the information. It's so much better than if it were just a conversation happening 100%. In like the priest office, and it was just like he had to like say it, or they showed it in like flashbacks. It's so much better to like have it experienced through the lens of our main character.
Yes, good point.
Really, really good.
Agreed. I thought it was really well done, but then it's undermined at the end by the painful realization that, oh my God, Peter Parker's an idiot.
Well, maybe we'll find out that there's something else to it, but
I already knew that. So,
but I think it's great that you have your lead character falling for this cult. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think too, like a lot of these cliffhangers, they aren't actually like. I bet you by the third page is he'd be like, no, it can't be real. You know what I mean? Like it's just a cliffhanger for cliffhanger.
Or what if like the splash page of the next issue is Peter, his eyes real big like that, and he goes, "Oh my God, I left the oven on." That's what he wasn't.
He gets all the way home. He's like, "Wait, I don't cook. What am I doing?"
Just a bunch of uncles telling dad jokes in here.
Anyway,
is that not what we're supposed to do?
Yes.
So all right.
Okay, so yeah.
Do we? I don't know. So everyone like this one?
Yeah,
Yes,
we don't do ratings, we do recommendations.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend this book. In fact, the scene at the end of the healing is one of those ones where, I don't know if you've ever done this, where something sticks in your head for your whole life and you can't remember where, did I read it in a book, did I see it in a movie, and then when I was reading, I was like, oh yeah, it's from this issue of Web of Spider-Man. So this is I definitely recommend this book. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, I think the beginning is a little dense. I hope that the overall story, like all 4 parts, I believe, of the cult.
4.
I hope it's good. I definitely recommend this one. I enjoyed it, especially in the latter half of the issue. Even if you want to like skim through the beginning and just read the end, it's a recommend.
Okay, G.I. Jolie.
Yep, it's a recommend for me too, especially if you're reading this one and not the one that came before it. I recommend that you go back and read the one before it too, and then continue on. I feel like this is going to be a good 4-parter.
Yeah, I agree. Bex Luthor.
Yeah, at least it's captivating my interest. Yeah, I'll recommend it. It's a story that I care about a character that really has been getting pushed to the side. She's still getting pushed to the side, but at least like maybe something's happening. So,
right.
Sure.
Okay.
Can't wait to see how they save her from the cult.
Mike Dell.
Yeah, I'll recommend it as well. Just the art alone, I really enjoyed. But Michael, this faith healing stuff they're doing with the belly and ripping, that's pretty common. And it's been featured in a lot of stuff. So did you ever see the movie Man on the Moon about Andy Kaufman?
Yes.
Well, that's in there as well. So maybe you remember
really?
that.
I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good movie. Yeah, I'll have to rewatch that.
So,
all right. So now we are going to jump to The Amazing Spider-Man 303 by David Mikalaini and Todd McFarlane and Bex Luthor. You're going to tell us what this one is. Oh, wait, before you jump in, Bex, I got to ask Mike Dell, do you see what that title is on the splash page?
I did see it, Michael.
Yep.
Because I love Doc Savage.
Yes.
I'm just going to put it out there.
Yep, very cool.
I listen to Doc Savage audiobooks every day of my life. I love Doc Savage.
All right, Bex Luthor. We'll talk Doc Savage later.
The reference.
Doc Savage.
You don't know Doc Savage? He's like the first superhero ever in the 1930s in the Pulp Fiction and whatnot.
Is that the Scarlet Pimpernel?
No. Classic superhero kind of thing. Superman stole pretty much everything from Doc Savage.
Not a few
pretty
things.
Much, Miguel.
His name is Clark Savage Jr., so that's where you get Clark Kent. And then he also has a...
Well, the author is Lester Dent. So
Lester
Clark
Dent.
Savage, that's how they combine that to get Clark Kent. Man of Steel, Doc Savage is the Man of Bronze.
Man of Bronze. And then he also has a Fortress of Solitude.
Yes, he literally had a Fortress of Solitude up in the Arctic where he went to do experiments. And Superman just said, hey, you know what? I like that. I'm just going to steal that, too. Give me that.
Everything else is different. Yeah. Everything else is different. But yeah, he's a proto-superhero, we'll call it, okay?
Yeah. Without Doc Savage, you're not here today doing this lovely podcast there, Bex.
There you go.
Yeah.
Or the Scarlet Pimpernel.
I really enjoyed just the fact that you guys both finished each other's nerd sentences just there.
And competed
about pretty
about
beautiful.
Who knew more about Doc Savage?
It was a beautiful nerd off, but it was like a synchronized dance as well.
Right.
You were dancing between the words amongst each other. And God, was it awful to be
I think there's memes created. I think there's memes created about that. Where you know those memes where like a guy's explaining something to a girl and like cornering her, like that was us right now. But anyway,
let's do a Here Comes the Doc Savage podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
To be fair, I said I don't know what this is, and then did expect you to explain it to me.
Of course,
I could do 2 more hours on Doc Savage if you want. Let's go. Doc Savage.
Just play a tape.
Doc Savage in Canadian junior hockey. That'll be the next podcast idea.
Awesome. I'll get all the viewers.
Because that's like a whole nother ball game outside the OHL.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Keep doing it. All right, I'm sorry, Bex. Go ahead. Tell us about this Spider-Man.
No, I'm more interested in learning about junior hockey. So, anyway, I was going to say, I find it interesting that we invited Mike Dell on this week when it's all like part twos of things.
Yeah, that's all right.
All of them are like part two of something. So that's fun.
What can you do? I
yeah,
take what I can get. You know, whenever Mike Dell invites
Basically-
me to the cool kids table, I just show up.
Where would that be? It's not here. Well, Jolie is here, and Josh. But besides
What the hell is happening anyway?
look, I have had too much soda.
Too many bubbles.
So-
Okay.
Too many
Amazing
adult
Spider-Man.
Yeah, so we start off with Peter Parker on top of the Chrysler building, as he does, just hanging on the spike. And he's basically recapping what's been going on in the last little bit of Spider-Man. Always appreciate a nice little recap from Mr. Parker. He, in the last bit of the stories, he's been offered a job in Kansas as a scientist, and so him and Mary Jane were talking of moving there, where Mary Jane obviously does not want to move to Kansas because she has a prolific modeling career in New York City, and she is a city girl. So Peter goes home, and he shows up, and his wife has fallen asleep on the couch in front of the TV on, in just the most wedding dress of lingerie I think I've ever seen before. I just want to point out that girls don't fall asleep in corsets on the couch casually. I couldn't imagine a less comfortable item of clothing to fall asleep in. But she's ready to wake up. He wakes her up. Who knows what time it is? She's ready to wake up, and she's like talking about how she understands, and he's got a tough decision to make. And then they go and presumably have sex in the bedroom because they're married and they can do that. We cut over to a training session with Sandman, where Silver Sable is testing Sandman's strength, and some very fun panels of him using his sand abilities. Because they're going Nazi hunting, which is just oodles of fun. Back over, Peter shows up for work the next morning at the Bugle, and Silver Sable has paid a lot of money to have an advertisement in the Bugle asking Spider-Man if he would like a paid gig. And before it even goes into print, Peter sees it. So, like, what a waste of money.
That's right. That's a good point.
Hand back over to Mary Jane in just the most 80s dress you've ever seen. At a photo shoot, and the photographer's like, you're not really in it 100% today. And instead of telling him to F off, she's like, yeah, I got a lot on my mind, because she doesn't want to move to Kansas. Back at Silver Sable's, what is it, Simkarian embassy? Peter shows up, but he's in the waiting room this time instead of just busting through the window. And Silver's like, I need your help in tracking down this Nazi. I need you to go infiltrate this building and tell me what's going on in there. And he's like, that's it? And she's like, yep, because I'm going to actually have Sandman do all the punching. And he's like, whoa, Sandman, even though he has not seen Sandman in... When was the last time we saw Sandman? I can't remember, but it's been a while.
A little while ago.
Yeah, a little while.
And he hasn't been a bad guy for a while either, so...
Well, he was he was roommates. He was renting a room from someone, wasn't he? A family, remember that?
Right.
Right, Josh?
I forget what that story is about, but Sandman was
Wait,
there.
the same
he
thing
was
also
he was
happened with
Fonzie. He was boarding with a
Electro.
family. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying
So
to
is this
remember.
why... Oh, I'm sorry. Is this why Sandman's going by the name Mr. Baker instead of Flint Marko?
Yeah, it's his alter ego name because he has like a regular apartment and everyone just calls him that now.
I never knew that. I was very confused when they were calling him Baker. I was like, what the hell? All right, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't think they explained it last issue, but I'm assuming just because people know who Flint Marko is at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they all go to the docks because everything happens at the docks, and Peter infiltrates this building full of Nazis, and he's like, oh, gotta punch this guy, I guess. And then he's sneaking around. Yeah, he's trying to make no noise, but he desperately like punches a guy who tries to shoot his gun. So there's some noise being made, but whatever. And then he's snooping around and he's listening to these Nazis talking about what they're gonna do, and they're gonna make the biggest drug run and the biggest drug deal in all of history, so that they then can get money to buy land to make a Nazi supremacy land.
Yeah, within the United States, right? Like they're
within the
planning
United
to,
States, yeah. They're gonna buy enough land from with their drug money. No, I think it's Central America. He says.
Oh, Central America. Okay.
I was gonna say, are they not happy with Clearwater, Florida? Jeez.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't.
sorry.
So anyway, yeah, it's like you're already doing something illegal, but whatever. We pan back over to Mary Jane, and she's upset from her modeling day job, and she's like, I gotta figure out my own shit now. And it's implied that she's thinking of just running away because she doesn't want to move to Kansas, and she can't tell Peter that. Back at the docks with the Nazis, Peter tells Silver Sable and Sandman what's going on in there, and how there's just so much cocaine in there, you guys. And then she's like, cool, got it, thanks. And then they go to break in and go punch some Nazis. And Peter's like, well, I can't just let them do it by themselves. They're gonna get hurt. They do not get hurt. Spoiler alert. So Sandman starts just sanding up some tanks. Peter's dodging bullets and thinking about Mary Jane some more. Silver Sable's doing some judo moves, and she busts into the main Nazi guy's hideout room and shoves a gun to his head, and she's like, don't make me do it, but she doesn't do it. So they just like arrest them because the security guard from the previous comic book, the guy who ran, there was like a building that they paid Silver Sable to infiltrate to test the security on, but then this Nazi guy tried to kill her. So this guy is paying her to get the Nazi guy and arrest him. And then Spider-Man gets paid in cash because he makes a fun joke about not being able to cash checks. Shows up at his apartment, and Mary Jane's got all her stuff packed, and he's like, oh my god, where are you going? She's like, to Kansas with you. And Peter's like, no, stupid, we're not going to Kansas. I'm going back to school to get a better job here. And she's like, when did you decide that? And he's like, just now.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of shady guys are looking at pictures of Spider-Man, and they're like, who's this Peter Parker fella taking these pictures? We'll find out next week, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
What a good comic full of really important stuff.
I think I would have really liked this comic if it wasn't for the flimsy reason Spider-Man is even here in the first place. So let me get this straight. Silver Sable hires Spider-Man because they need somebody sneaky to sneak into the Nazi facility to figure out what the Nazis are doing. And it turns out the Nazis are doing Nazi shit, so they bust down the doors and they just capture them. What was he hired to do?
Yeah, good point.
Yup, they're Nazis. Like, the information he got was pointless. They could have just, the three of them, barged in together and then took all the information that's obviously there in the files and all that shit and then arrest the Nazis. Like, it just doesn't make sense that he's like hired for this job. Like, they could have done anything. Like, we need Spider-Man to sneak in to like turn off the surveillance because there's no way that we're going to be able to just barge in, or, you know, something, like any sort of excuse. It's just super weird that the second they find out that, yeah, the Nazis are doing bad things, they're like, okay, well, I guess we'll just barge in and blow everything up. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Also, to answer your question, Becca, they are. It is actually around 11:35 when Peter gets home.
And she's fallen asleep on the couch?
Yeah, because Letterman just got just turned on
12.
and
12:35 because this was back when he was
True,
on NBC.
12:35. You're right.
Oh,
This was before
interesting.
he jumped to CBS.
Okay, I looked it up and it said from 1988 to 1992 aired from 11:35 to 12:35.
Really?
But I could be wrong.
No, he didn't go to CBS until 92-ish or 93. So
Oh,
at
okay.
this point, yeah, he would have been at 12:35 or 12:30,
Okay.
whatever.
So it's
Yeah.
12:30.
So she made it to midnight and then fell asleep.
She's the party girl.
That's true.
Can we
Can't stay
talk?
up?
Yeah. Can we talk about this David Letterman line though?
Yeah, that is not. I don't know if Mikalaini ever watched Letterman, but that is not a Letterman joke at all. It was terrible.
So Ronald Reagan in this Captain America issue, it was a double-sized issue of Captain America.
Yes, that I used to own. Yes,
and a bunch of the Snake villains they've got their own like Snake evil team, and they have like a Snake spaceship, and they flew around turning everybody into snake people, and they busted into the White House, and they turned Ronald Reagan into a snake, and Captain America had to wrestle him.
Yeah, the Serpent Society. Come on.
Just so y'all know just so you know what's going on, because I was like, what's an ASP?
Oh,
so I was like, I got to figure out what that is.
Never heard of an asp.
It's an asp.
An asp.
What is it? No, what is that?
It's a snake.
It's a snake.
Oh, okay. Anyways.
Asp. Yeah.
This sounds way more fun than the thing we just read.
Well,
yeah, the cover of that comic is Captain America fighting definitely the president as a snake man.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I forgot that snakes or asps were a breed of snake, and I too thought it was maybe an initialism for something cooler. So I Googled it.
Oh, wow.
And scared the crap out of myself late at night. Because
I think it's like in caps and like bolded asp. So I thought it was ASP, and I thought it was like a life model decoy or something, and like an LMD. Right. Like I thought it was like something else, some other made up BS for Marvel. So I was like, I wonder what that is. So I looked it up. I'm like, I was not expecting that.
But for those who haven't read the book, here's the joke that they attribute to David Letterman. So what is it with this Reagan guy, huh? I mean, did he really make an asp of himself or what? That is not how Letterman talks.
It's not only is it a terrible joke, but it's
Jay Leno joke at best.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely a Leno joke. It is not a Letterman joke.
But they have one of those little captions at the bottom. For the tale behind this punchline, see Captain America number 344. Just makes it even worse, you know?
Yeah.
Terrible.
But here's the thing. David Mikalaini, if you guys remember, he wrote the Iron Man we did last week. And I love David Mikalaini, but it's funny because when I was reading these as a kid, Amazing was my favorite because it was drawn by Todd McFarlane. But in contrast to the other two books, this is the weakest, story-wise, the weakest of the bunch, I think, this week.
Yeah, Spidey doesn't even need to be in this comic. And he doesn't need to be in the like heist of Sable and Sandman. Like, you need somebody to be sneaky to sneak into a building, and he didn't turn to the guy that is literally sand. Don't you think that he could sneak into a building easier than Spider-Man? Like
that is a good point. Yeah, he's
you know, he could go anywhere. Anyways, it's just it's weird that he's even here, and it's weird that she would like put out an ad in the Bugle for Spider-Man again for this. Like, it just doesn't. It's like not that big of a deal what they need Spider-Man for. It's not this like crazy thing that's going to end the world or anything. Like, it's just so. It just seems like such a weird hook for this story. It just doesn't make it could be anything to bring him in.
I also thought the whole Kansas plot, the subplot about he's moving to Kansas, that's all preposterous too. Like, Spider-Man can't live in Kansas, you know? So he's just going to give up being Spider-Man?
Well, it's just a way to test their marriage. They've only been married like a few months, and it makes you think, oh, maybe they'll split up. You know, that's all it's there for. So
I think it's more of an excuse to get him to go back to university. Mm-hmm. I think that's what that whole that's where it ends. But I think that the reason why they came up with that plot was for the ending to be like, oh, guess what? He's back in school. You guys like Peter when he's in university, right? Uh-huh. And I think that's kind of the deal. So it doesn't. I don't think it makes for a great story, but I at least like MJ and Peter being on like the same team and doing stuff with and for each other, and they're not like arguing. MJ isn't like, oh, what am I gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, she's like genuinely weighing her options. Like, she's not making the decision solely on Peter, but she's kind of like figuring out what's going to be best for the both of them, and so is Peter. So, and I definitely like MJ better in this issue than I do in Spectacular.
Okay. Mike Dell, what's your take on this issue?
I did not enjoy it too much. I will give the Nazis credit for at least dressing like Nazis. That makes it easy for everybody around them, when they're wearing the Nazi uniforms. It's like, hey, there's a Nazi right there. There's a guy. 'Cause, they could have just been wearing suits or something. That would have been tricky. Instead, they're wearing actual Nazi uniforms in the 1940s.
Good point.
So that's nice. I also, Michael, you mentioned Todd McFarlane and how you liked it when you were a kid. When I was a kid, I loved Todd McFarlane drawing on Spider-Man. Like, I didn't start reading Spider-Man until maybe like a little bit after this. This is 303.
Sure.
So maybe like 310-ish or so I started.
Yeah, me too.
But, wow, looking at it now, I can't stand this art. I just hate it so much.
We have some healthy debates about Todd McFarlane on the Spider-Cast.
Like, drawing Spider-Man, he's great. Because when I was a kid, I loved the energy he brought to Spider-Man, the big eyes, the poses, the crazy webbing and everything. But, man, anything else that he has to draw is not pleasant to look at. I don't know. Just do not like it.
Well, it's like there's lots of great experimental storytelling we talk about, like on page, like for example, page 1, great splash page, gigantic moon, right? You flip through, all these shots of him swinging are great, and then we get to Mary Jane on the couch, so we get some kind of cheesecake. We get the giant close up of her eye, right? That's something that not a typical artist would do. But look at the 2 panels on either side of them. Peter Parker's anatomy is garbage.
Yeah, the faces are always terrible.
Yeah, sloppy and rushed. And then you get like a big money shot of Mary Jane on the next page, which is good. But again, then the page after that, Sandman with that spider, it's terrible. Yeah. It's kind of like that. Go ahead, Josh.
I've said it before on the podcast. I don't mind the anatomy problems because it's just so interesting to look at. And the storytelling through the panels is so fun, and what's happening is really good. So I don't care that a lot of the times the art doesn't look the best, because it's, to me, more interesting to look at than any of the other issues. Just because of how the story's told.
Right. The other problem is sometimes it does look rushed, and unfortunately, I believe next issue he's going to start doing 2 issues a month for 3 months in a row. So there's going to be, so it's going to be even more rushed. So we'll see how that goes.
Like even the cover, I thought the cover was kind of weak as well. The design of it, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not great. I agree.
Like, why isn't Sandman's hand over top of Spider-Man? Like it should be like about to grab him. Like the fingertip should be in front of the webbing, And I don't know. And just his body, it should be angled. I don't know. Didn't like the cover. Didn't like the art. Not a fan.
Also look at Spider-Man's hand on the cover. That's terrible.
His left hand leg, coming as well, is way too long. Yeah, need a hip.
It's rushed. Yeah. G.I. Jolie, what'd you think of this issue?
It's an issue of a comic
that I read.
Yep.
So not great.
I can't even say that I read. Well, I definitely read this. When I saw Silver Sable on the cover, I was like, oh no, her again. Nothing good ever happens.
Was she like a regular at this period in Spider-Man?
Yes.
Yeah.
For a couple
like
years.
A regular annoyance? Yeah.
Okay, because I don't have much of a history with Silver Sable.
No, well, she's always like paying money for someone to do something, and it's always kind of like getting in the way. And I can't ever tell if she's good or she's bad, or this time she's like, she just needs him for something. And it turns out that like she didn't really need him, and that giant advertisement she took out on the front page above the fold of the newspaper, like that would have cost a lot, and you didn't actually need him. God,
good point.
Like, I don't know. I don't get it. And then there was, it was a joke from the other issue. Lorraine made it about. Mary Jane made a petty joke about Lorraine being embarrassing. Like, my husband would never accidentally crawl into bed with you. I thought it was this issue.
Oh, okay.
I was like, wait a second. It was the other one. That was actually funny. Okay, so nothing like that happened here. Strike against it. It's always fun when the Nazis come out to play, I guess, but like... nope.
Yeah, that's really flimsy.
Yeah.
It reminded me. Anybody watch the Blues Brothers? Do you remember the Illinois Nazis from the Blues Brothers? That's good. These guys remind me.
I don't remember it, but I mean, yeah, I love it.
It's just this issue was just so strange.
Yeah.
Jolie, how do you feel about the McFarlane here?
Oh, I don't mind McFarlane either. And at first, I had the same feelings. And then Josh started pointing out things about the art, about the storytelling, that made it very interesting visually to look at. And every time I read or see McFarlane, now I think about those things, where I didn't before, and I hastily judged. Not to say that you guys are hastily judging, but
yeah, he has nice energy and stuff. But man, just the figures,
Yeah.
I just can't take it.
Yeah, it's totally fair. Like I definitely see the problem with his art. I'm not saying that he's not without faults, but for me, I just like, I don't know, I love the storytelling, so I kind of just like don't pay any mind to some of the anatomy problems because of how fun it is to read.
Yeah. And like, for example, did he ink this or did someone else ink this? I forgot
Inked
to
it.
look.
Did
Todd McFarlane inked it?
Yeah, he inked it.
Okay, so the anatomy of Peter Parker that Mike had mentioned earlier, it wouldn't be so terrible if it wasn't inked the way it was, because the poor anatomy is created by the ink shadows. Okay, that's one strike. If you're going to ink yourself. Second strike. Speaking of Nazis, Nazi uniforms. I guess neo-Nazis only dress in leather. It's so weird how you can have, like, ink replicate, or you can use ink in a way that makes it look or suggest things like pleather or leather or, different kinds of material. Because the way that they use the ink makes it look like they're all wearing pleather. So these are like, what, Nazi daddies?
That's definitely a thing, so.
Probably,
Yeah, right?
yeah.
So it's like, in order to bring this into, like, no, I'm not even going to argue for that.
Yeah.
It's like, in order to bring this into a realm that holds up today and you don't confuse them with Nazi daddies, no. It just, like, you know what I mean? There's, like, just little tiny things that would make it better, but that it's just almost like nitpicking. So it's like, whatever. Let's just say the story is terrible.
Yeah, it's not
I don't think it's terrible. I think it's just weak. It's just cookie cutter, filler, boring. I don't know.
Yeah. To me, that's terrible, though.
Well, I don't
It's
hate it. I don't hate it.
terrible.
It's just boring. But
There are
anyway,
some things in this that I absolutely adore, though.
Okay.
I love Mary Jane. I love the fact that she's like, do I love my husband more than my job? She's like, I don't know if I do. And that's like a decision that she has to make. And that's like,
yeah,
that's like her, basically at this point in her life, those are her two big things, is her husband and her job. So like, the fact that she is ready, she makes the decision, like, you know what? In order to make my marriage work, I'm going to sacrifice the thing that I love almost the most for the thing that I love the most. I think that is very character developing of her, of the party girl who, but she's like, not settled down, but I just enjoyed that aspect of her maturity growing. And then as far as the art goes, there are some things that I actually really, really liked. And they're very, very little things. When you look at the McFarland, I've noticed in the past couple issues we've been reading, if you look at the whole page, you're like, wow, this looks kind of awkward, or the anatomy's weird, whatever. But then if you focus on the little details, there's all these little teeny tiny, like, little bits of candy that I'm a big fan of. There's when Peter shows up to the apartment with Mary Jane, and yeah, there's that like big like money shot of her like in her sexy outfit, but Peter's hands are super nervously pulling at her drawstrings, and I think that's the spiciest thing that's happened in a Spider-Man comic book in a long time. I was like, that is pure spice on an artistic level that I very much enjoy. And you could tell he's fiddling with it because he's in the depth of his soul, he's a huge fucking nerd. And Mary Jane is the hottest thing he's ever seen.
And he's married to her. And
yeah,
he can fiddle.
Exactly. So I loved that. I thought that was such a very pinnacle little detail. The next thing that I love more than anything, and it's for a very different reason, is how many times Sandman is drawn in full sand form, but just his head.
Yeah, that
brought me so much joy every time I saw it. I think it's literally like a couple pages after the Mary Jane one, where it's just he's like rocket shipping up, but it's just his head in a bunch of sand.
Oh,
Yeah, good point.
So funny.
Seeing him in this comic, how have they not cast John Cena to play this character yet? This is literally John Cena. Like, every single time he's drawn in this comic, it's just a picture of John Cena.
I don't know. I think, what's the guy's name that got him that played him in Spider-Man 3?
Almost
He was
Hayden Church.
Yeah, he's good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So
And then the other little teeny tiny thing that I really, really, really liked was when Peter goes to Silver Sable's house and he's like crouched, spider crouched on the glass table reading a newspaper. That's funny.
It's also, I gotta point out, that's also, Spider-Man would never just stand there. Spider-Man would crouch like that, and that's an important thing that like an artist like McFarlane would think of, I think, and that's great. I love it.
They show the empty waiting chair next to the table, and he's just sitting, crouched on the table, and I was like, I love that, Peter. You're such a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, I love that.
And I think he hams it up.
Yeah.
For this kind of stuff, he knows he's being a scuttly little bastard. So it was just like those little bits of things that I really enjoyed. I also enjoyed the fact that we had to make Nazis more evil by having them peddle drugs.
Yeah.
They're not just Nazis. They've got cocaine. So yeah, I think the whole thing with Silver Sable is pretty pointless. But I like the stuff with Mary Jane a lot, and I like the art a lot. And I had a fun time reading it, so... But the plot was pointless, which is unfortunate. But I watch a lot of bad movies, and this is kind of what I was. It's kind of like watching a bad movie.
Yeah, like, even though the plot was flimsy, I enjoyed the three of them teaming up and like raiding the facility. And I think, again, that credit goes to Todd McFarlane because it's visually fun. Like, one of my favorite panels in this issue is after they are in the facility, we see like Silver Sable surrounded by two of the Nazis on this like walkway, and then in the foreground we see Spider-Man like hanging off of a side of the wall as he's like looking down watching this, and then she throws her like weird Silver Sable throwing stars at them. Like, that panel is so fun and interesting, and like the angles and how, like, I just don't see that in any of the other comics. Like, a panel like that would never happen.
You mean the one of Spider-Man, like, looking down?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. That is an excellent panel. You're right. No other artist would have thought about it. But then look at the panel right next to it of Silver Sable throwing that thing. It looks like a teenager drew it. It's garbage, right?
Yeah. But
so
like,
either he really tried on the first one and didn't try on the other one, or I don't know what.
Yeah, I think it seems like all of his focus and his energy goes into creating visually dynamic things, and less time goes into making the art high quality. You know what I mean? Like, he would make like a really good storyboard artist compared to, because it's just so visually stunning, planning all of these shots out and how these action sequences are going to be happening. Like, even I mean, I feel like I gush about him every issue since he's been introduced, but like when all of the lasers are like shooting at Spider-Man and he's dodging them, they're coming off of the page and then they're bouncing back and forth on the corners of the panel. Like, they shoot into the panel and then you see them like hit the corners and all of the edges instead of them just like hitting a wall. Like, the panels feel alive and a part of the story. Earlier on, like, some of the panels are actually like disintegrating when things are blowing up in them. Like, there's just I don't know, just fun, interesting things. Like I think Becca was saying too, like candy, like just like cool things to look at in every single shot. And basically he invented, I should back up. Art Adams innovated a lot of these techniques.
We reviewed Long Shot on Spidercast and Flea Market Fantasy, and a lot of this comes from Art Adams. But this is basically Image Comics, right? This is what they all excelled at. Like Rob Liefeld, Eric Larson, they all did these little things. They all mastered the art of eye candy, but none of them mastered the art of anatomy and draftsmanship and perspective. And so it's like all of them had so much potential. And I keep saying I wish all of these guys would have like gone back to art school and learned how to actually draw instead of just now 20, 30 years later, they still draw like teenagers. That's the problem. Like Rob Liefeld's art has not improved one iota in 35 years. It's embarrassing.
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe a tiny bit.
Honestly, I don't care. I'd rather have this than any of the other issues, personally. I like the storytelling in this. I like the art and how dynamic it is and how interesting. Like this was a shitty story. I'm sorry. What happened in this comic kind of blows. Like there's nothing that redeeming about the story and what's happening, but it's still so visually fun to read because like how it's being told is done in a fun way and an interesting way. And there's always new things that I have not seen before in his comics. I would much rather have this shitty anatomy and have the fun storytelling in the art.
Well, people like you are the reason comics were destroyed in the 90s. But anyway, so let's...
Here's the thing, though. Everybody says that when they were kids, Todd McFarlane was their favorite artist. There's a reason because of that. It's so bold and engaging. It's very easy to follow along. And I don't think that's a negative.
Yeah, it's clear storytelling. It's just that, when you get older, you see all the flaws. Like I'm not saying he's not talented. He was one of my favorite artists, but I just wish that he would have gone. Like it's like I always make sports references whenever I talk about
sports.
Do you?
Yeah, exactly.
You know so much about sports.
Yeah, exactly. No, actually, I know one sports analogy, and that's Michael Jordan. Okay, apparently when he started
My favorite
out,
baseball player.
he was not good at what are they called, Mike Dell? They called free throws.
What is it called?
He was pretty good at free throws. He was pretty good at free throws.
Shootsy-hoopsy.
At one point, he was not, though. And basically, he had to practice. So he's like, okay, well, that's it. I'm not good at them, so I'm going to go and practice every night until I am good. And I wish Todd McFarlane would have gone, you know what? I am good at A, B, and C, but I'm not good at anatomy, so I'm going to just keep learning anatomy. But he didn't do that. What's that, Jolie?
I'm just nodding my head and listening.
Do you agree?
I think you said the same analogy last week.
Oh, yeah, but I'm bringing it up again because Mike Dell is here, and he'll appreciate my sports analogy.
Yeah, I love when Mike L talks sports.
Yeah.
It's always
But
fun.
anyway.
Me too.
Right.
Anyways, I also how have we not talked about the over the booty shot instead of the over the shoulder shot? We get an over the butt shot.
Which page?
When Spider-Man is sitting on the table in Silver Sable's office, instead of an over the shoulder shot, we get an over the butt shot of Spider-Man as we are looking past Silver Sable's
ass
butt in this
Is
dress.
that what that is?
Yeah.
That is Silver Sable's ass you're looking at. Yes.
Yeah.
Cheesecake,
Again, I
they call it.
say that is not how you would ink that fabric. That is not how that fabric would lie or fall on that part of the body, even
Very
if it
flat
was skin
legs.
tight. Sorry.
Yeah, see, I couldn't tell it was a butt.
I think that's my problem too. I didn't realize it was a butt.
Oh, I clocked in that it was a butt right away.
Yeah. How much?
Jeez, John.
What's the point of having ass and titties if you can't tell that they're ass and titties?
Exactly.
Me and Becca would have been all over that butt.
Yeah. Only. I mean, sorry, I'm married. Sorry.
Oh, you know what, guys? Okay, before we wrap up, one more thing. I noticed a little, kind of, not Easter egg, but a little attention to detail. You know those guys at the end, like all hiding in shadows, talking about why does Peter Parker have photos of Spider-Man?
Yeah.
The newspaper they're looking at has photographs of Spider-Man, but Spider-Man is drawn in the old Steve Ditko way with, like, smaller eyes.
That is nice, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice little detail.
Same thing
cool.
earlier on when Spider-Man's reading the comic about Hulk.
Yeah, the
Okay.
newspaper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I destroyed
That's
Gamma
interesting. It
Base.
says McFarlane in hospital, artist in stable condition after the Hulk beat him.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah, like McFarland he loads. Oh, I don't know if you guys know this. Todd McFarlane always puts Felix the Cat somewhere in every issue of every comic he does.
Wait,
And
really?
Yeah. And this issue, if you look at the first panel of Spider-Man reading the newspaper, you can see Felix the Cat on the back of the newspaper there.
Huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
now this is.
Oh, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, that's gonna be
Should
my
have said
thing.
that.
Thing now to look at every issue.
So anyway, recommendations. Not a great issue of Amazing, but I still recommend it. It's still a fun Spidey book. G.I. Jolie, what about you?
Yeah, sure. McFarlane is fun. Go ahead and read it. Also, there's a continuation. It's a continuation of another story, and this one continues on. So
Right.
if you're a completist, again, don't stop now.
Okay. Joshua Mervell, recommend it.
It's a fun issue, but in the kind of stupid fun way. Story's not great, but it's really interesting to look at, so I'd recommend it on that basis alone.
Okay. Bex Luthor.
Yeah, no, I recommend it. I mean, is it the best thing I've ever read? No. But, I didn't have a bad time, so. But also, take that with a grain of salt, because I never have a bad time.
Okay, anyway.
What about Mike Dell?
Mike Dell. Do you recommend
Well, I
it?
love the Doc Savage title. And then it went
Recommend
downhill.
it.
It went downhill from there. I thought the story was weak and kind of pointless, and I thought the art was terrible. I did not like this art at all. I didn't think it was fun. It hurt my eyes to look at it. So
Okay. Oh, wait, one more quick question. So, you know what? I was going to ask you about Alex Saviuk versus McFarlane, but you didn't even know Alex Saviuk when you were a kid. But obviously, when you were a kid, you liked McFarlane, right?
Yeah. I never encountered Saviuk at all until today. Or yesterday.
But it's interesting because when McFarlane was on Amazing, Saviuk would have been doing webs, so you probably saw his art but didn't care about it and just didn't buy it, right?
I wouldn't say that. No, I never liked the idea that Spider-Man had a bunch of books. So if I bought Spider-Man, I just bought Amazing Spider-Man. That was it.
See, I was so obsessed that I had to buy everything he appeared in, so I bought all 3 of these.
Yeah, and it's not like
every
McFarlane
month.
was my favorite artist when I was a kid. I liked him, but he
Okay.
was down the list, But
Okay. Now we're going to talk about the spectacular Spider-Man 141 featuring an appearance by the Punisher. Now, I want to point out, and I've said this before, but Mike Dell, just so you know, at this point, Punisher might have had his miniseries, but he did not have a regular monthly book.
Okay.
So it's still rare to see Punisher, and he was created by Gerry Conway, so, this is Punisher's...
He was stolen by Gerry Conway. Remember we did all that? It's stolen
okay.
by Gerry Conway.
Fight,
That's fine.
fight.
Yeah.
Kiss.
Anyway, so yeah, we got an awesome cover here. Don't mess with the Punisher. Punisher is kicking some guys' asses, whatever. And we open up with this awesome splash page by Sal Buscema. Spidey is swinging down over top of Punisher's van, and he's going to meet Punisher on a boat. And I love how Punisher explains that he stole this boat from a Colombian drug lord. Can I point out Colombians do not speak English natively. They speak Spanish. So this Colombian drug lord decided to call his boat Golden Girl.
Because he's a big fan of the Golden Girls.
Right, there you go. Of B. Arthur.
Who is
So anyway.
it? Sophia's my favorite. Who's yours?
So anyway. So they basically have this really, I think it's a very cool meeting where they basically talk about Tombstone and why Punisher, like what he's after. He's after this tape that Peter Parker has acquired from Robbie Robertson containing all of this evidence about Tombstone. And Punisher talks about, why he wants to hunt down Tombstone, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, Tombstone and his goons are actually watching this happen from it looks like 5 feet away practically, right? And so they kind of flash back.
Michael, I'd like to point out as well that when they're having their little meeting, he's showing them all these pictures of Tombstone around the United States. You see him in front of the Golden Gate Bridge. You see him in front of the arch there in St. Louis.
Yep.
And then they also say he's in Pittsburgh as well. So they have a picture of Pittsburgh, and they could recognize Pittsburgh by just one photo. I was impressed by that.
Which one is Pittsburgh?
The
you
one
can't tell.
that has Dell's house in it.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
As someone who comes from Pittsburgh, that's nice to see Pittsburgh get some attention, but I'm wondering what picture would they show that is easily recognizable that he's in Pittsburgh.
What is the most famous landmark of Pittsburgh? Is there one?
Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, Kid Crosby. Well, back here it would have been
Canadian
giant
legend.
statue of him.
Well, back here it would have been Mario Lemieux. 66. You could show Mario Lemieux there.
I had a Mario Lemieux Barbie doll back when I was a kid.
Really?
Pittsburgh Penguins were my favorite team because I liked penguins,
Nice.
and I had a big crush on him.
Oh, nice. I had no idea.
His skates came off, and they came with other skates, and you could replace the gloves with other gloves.
I had no idea that was a thing. Wow.
Don't know who the market demo was. That just me. Sorry, Mike.
Canadian girl.
Oh, sorry, guys. I've Googled Pittsburgh. It actually looks really nice.
Oh, yeah, it's a great city. It's a great city.
It's a beautiful city.
I didn't realize there was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6 bridges.
No jive, Michael. Pittsburgh has the most bridges of any city in the world. That is true. That is not a lie. That is a fact.
You know how many bridges we have crossing from Windsor to Detroit? 1, and now we're going to have 2. That's it.
Well,
Yeah,
All right, well, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to
Anyway,
give
back
Pittsburgh
to
some
Spectacular
love
Spider-Man.
There. But yeah.
So they're talking about Tombstone. They're flashing back to scenes we've seen before of like, or maybe we haven't seen these specific scenes, but we've seen Tombstone choke out guys and leave their eyes bugged out of their head. We've definitely seen that before. And then Punisher is flashing back to the issue before because we saw all these scenes, but we didn't know who it was that was kind of following Spider-Man. Now we realize, it was Punisher the whole time, hiding in the shadows, blah, 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 right? And so basically Punisher is like, this is what I'm going to get this tape. I want to get it. So then, it's one of those classic superhero tropes where Spider-Man's like, well, I'll talk to Peter Parker and he'll give it to me and then I'll give it to you. How about that? So it's kind of funny. And then we cut back out to Tombstone and he's like, he basically tells his goons, okay, I want you to go and scare Punisher. So then we cut back over to Robbie Robertson in the hospital and he's talking to Ben Urich, and Ben Urich knows that there's this tape. And Robbie Robertson's trying to pretend that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And Ben Urich's like, I know about the tape, blah, blah, blah. He's trying to convince him to do the right thing. And, Robbie Robertson is like, he's got this moral dilemma. He doesn't know what to do. So we cut back over to Punisher on Golden Girl. And we see these goons sneaking onto the boat. And Punisher is making, basically he's frying up some bacon, and these guys, and he's wearing like a bath towel, and his hair is wet. These guys sneak down into the boat, and he hears them, so he whips some bacon grease at them, and it totally goes in this guy's eye. And for the whole rest of the scene, he's like, "My eyes, man, my eyes!" And he's like going crazy. And so it's like Three Stooges. He falls back and knocks this guy over. Then Punisher whips his cast iron pan at the guy and hits him in the head. And then the guy is still talking about his eyes. He's like, because Punisher's like, how many people are on the boat? He's like, 2 on deck. Oh, man, I can't see. So then Punisher, and again, keep in mind, this is a 1980s comic book approved by the Comics Code. The Punisher takes this machine gun and just wastes these 2 guys, murders them. They fall off the boat into the sea. And then he grabs the guy that gave him the information, and now he's going to spare him, right? Because he gave him the information. And that's it. So then we cut away to Peter Parker and Mary Jane. Now, we can talk about this later, but this is a completely different take on Mary Jane than we see from Todd McFarlane. I like it, but whatever. That's a whole other story. So Peter's having a moral dilemma because he's got this tape here that Joe Robertson has recorded all about Tombstone and all the things that he's done, and he's trying to figure out what to do, right? And then Mary Jane is like, she throws in her 2 cents, and she's like, I don't want to see you get hurt, do what you think is right, but don't ask me to decide. I can't handle it. So then he gives her a kiss and then leaves. And then she's like, wow, I'm so, I love you so much. The thought of losing you is more than I can stand, So then we cut over to Tombstone, who is going into, I can't remember, where's he going now? Oh, that's right.
Museum?
No, he's going. No, he
apartment
sees
building.
Peter Parker's apartment. Yeah, so now he knows that Peter Parker lives there. That's kind of scary. Yeah. So then we cut over to the Cloisters, which is a 20th century monastery. That is, I guess this is Tombstone's headquarters, right? So then Punisher parks his van outside, and I actually love this scene. Again, we have to remember that Gerry Conway created, not stole, the Punisher.
He stole him.
And so he is going to go in and kick some ass, but unlike later Punisher stories, the Punisher is not, infallible. He makes mistakes. So he goes in and I assume he shoots this guy. He shoots one guy, shoots another guy, and then I love this narration. He's like, he's talking about how, Frank Castle, a.k.a. the Punisher, has been awake for over 36 hours. He's tired. Tired men make near fatal mistakes. The Punisher just made his. So he hesitated, and in broad daylight, he tried to, reload his gun. And to that moment, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goons all leap out of the bushes to, beat the crap out of the Punisher. Then we cut back over to Peter Parker's apartment, and is this the apartment or no?
Yes.
Has he followed her to?
Yes.
Okay, it's the apartment. So Tombstone actually comes into the apartment and picks up Mary Jane by her hair and is holding her up. And I love this sequence. I love the art. He's holding her up, and it's like No Country for Old Men scary. I love it. And so then we cut away from that scene very quickly. We cut back, and Punisher is beating the crap out of these goons. Thud, crack, chunk, right? Quam, kachak, chak, thuck. Every sound effect in the book. Yeah, fuck. And then he scares one guy away just by looking at him. And he's like, "Okay, Tombstone, I played your little game of cat and mouse." And up until this point, the story was pretty realistic. Then the limousine
this
opens.
Is amazing.
And a guy called the Persuader, dressed in
There he
a
is.
white leotard and with a big
Lollipop on his chest.
yeah, what is that? Yeah, like a not a maze. What is that called?
It's like a
swirl.
A hypno thing where you get hypnotized.
Yeah, exactly.
Spiral thing.
And so he is trying to hypnotize. And they've been building up this guy for 6 months.
Oh, so
He's
this is the first time you've ever seen him?
No,
seen
yeah,
him in
what
costume.
it is we've seen him in street clothes. This is the first time we've seen him in costume.
What a costume it is.
Yeah, so they've been building up that this guy can control people's minds. So finally, now we can see him in action. 6 months of build-up, he hypnotizes the Punisher, and we see that great shot of the Punisher all hypnotized. And then the next page, he's like, no. He's fighting the hypnotism. We get a great Sal Buscema shot of him completely bent over backwards. It's so great. Persuader's trying to hypnotize him, but Punisher's fighting it. Then we cut away because we don't know what's going to happen, right? Maybe Punisher's going to be a bad guy now. We don't know. So we cut back to Peter Parker, who is standing over Joe Robertson as he's in bed. And then we get a phone call. The nurse comes in and says, "Are you Peter Parker?" "Yes." "I thought so. One of the emergency room nurses said your wife. She's been hurt." And then he's like, "Mary Jane!" And then we cut back to Joe Robertson crying in bed because he knows that something bad has happened with Tombstone. And that's it. The end. Next issue, and one will fall.
Yeah, and I guess the big plot here is they have a tape. Robertson has a tape that he gave to Peter that has all the evidence against Tombstone. And he's debating whether to release it or not because he thinks if he releases it, Tombstone, who's already broken his back, will kill him. Right? Is that what's going on?
Yes. So I loved this issue, as I love every issue lately with this whole Tombstone saga. Mike Dell, I heard you snicker. What did you think of this issue?
No, I was just laughing that you love all these issues because probably a little questionable some of these issues. But is this the first Tombstone appearance in Spider-Man? Is this his first?
No. He's
this arc.
Yeah, this arc, not this issue.
A few, 3 or 4 issues ago, he first appeared, and now they've been building up this whole Joe Robertson storyline. So,
all right, good.
So what'd you think of this one?
I enjoyed it. The story is okay. Punisher does make some goofy decisions here with the Golden Girl boat, the Persuader guy in his little yellow outfit. That was amazing. But I love Sal's art here. Holy hell,
yes.
he inked his own stuff. See, now this is comic book art. This clean lines, no wasted lines at all. Just telling the story, and man, I love this. It's good.
I'm just watching Josh's face as you say that because I'm totally with you, Mike Dell. When I was a kid, I was on the fence about Sal Buscema, but as I got older, he's one of my favorite artists.
I'm not a huge fan of his art normally, but I really love it. I mean, this is great stuff. Maybe because I don't know how many times I've seen him ink his own stuff. I really like the inking here. You know,
we should point out he also drastically changed his style, like around the mid '80s, because he got fired from New Mutants by Ann Nocenti, America's Sweetheart, and then what happened was he changed his style, and he actually said that he changed it to kind of. He was influenced by Bill Sienkiewicz, so he was fired because of Bill Sienkiewicz.
The sharp edges, the angles,
exactly right. So,
love it.
It's great.
He probably uses fewer lines in this entire book than McFarlane did in like 2 panels.
You're totally right. I agree. It's a very efficient style. Yeah, he's a classic comic book artist.
The art looks amazing in this issue. There's no arguing that. I think it looks probably the best out of all 3. I just think that at times it's the least interesting.
I think that's fair. There's nothing exciting here going on with panel designs or anything like that. You know,
and even like the story being told. I feel like there's ways that could have been like really interesting. Like I'm really, really disappointed in one page in particular. Sorry, my dog is oinking.
Oinking.
That's what it was.
Yeah. When the Punisher and Spidey are first talking on the Golden Girls boat, Punisher is recalling when he got some information from some goons, right? And Spidey's like, how'd you find out Tombstone was in New York? And he says, contacts. And then we cut over to all of these guys laid out on like pool tables with pool cues like busted. Everybody's knocked out, and it's just Punisher in the center looking at them all. But then we have this like dialogue in there, him explaining it, and then we cut over to him like holding up a guy to get information from him. Like if it was done like more interesting, it would have been like the panel of Spidey asking Punisher. It would have been an empty, like no dialogue in one panel of everybody laid out all over the pool table, and then the next panel would have been him looking at Spidey saying contacts, and then you don't have to be like, oh, I beat up some guys and got the information, and oh, it's New York and Augie's pub. Who cares? Like you know what I mean? Like we get the whole story just in the one panel after him, like we see what's happening in just the one panel of everybody laying out on the pool table and everybody knocked out in this bar. You don't need to like then take time to be like, after Harold's funeral, I did some networking and say, who cares? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't
totally
have,
right.
You know, so like they have to use all of this dialogue to explain what's happening instead of just letting the art and the panels tell the story. And it would have been so much more interesting and kind of funny to see him just be like contacts and then all of these guys laying out everywhere and like, you know,
because it's actually a little bit like the web sequence where the narration is playing off the visuals of what you're seeing, right? It's similar to that, and you're right. That's a good point. They could have just cut out all that dialogue and just had like him being like, it could have been like a funny, you know, I don't know what he could have said that was funny, but like it would have contradicted what you see visually, right? It's almost like the Ant-Man narration joke,
right?
Where the character is talking for all the other characters. You know, like I love that.
It wouldn't be like a flat out joke where you're laughing out loud or anything, but it's like a visual cue that like tells the entire story. You know what I mean? Like it's super interesting. And while the art is a lot better in this issue, I am never going to go back to this issue to be like, I need to look at all of this art. Because the story like the story that's being told in the panels just like isn't as interesting to me.
Are you telling me?
Sorry.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Where the Amazing issue, while the story is kind of crummy and the art technically isn't good, it's just way more fun to look at, and I'll definitely have more fun going back and looking at those panels and seeing what's going on in the story.
Okay,
G.I. Jolie,
that you wouldn't go back to this comic and look at the Persuader right in his dead hypno eyes? Ridiculous.
Also, his name is the Persuader, and he's teamed up with the Arranger. Come on now. Come on now.
Good point. And they're fighting the Punisher.
Arrange for you.
It is ridiculous.
Persuaded.
No,
And he's
I love that. I love how ridiculous that is.
Yeah, okay. Like, that's the part that I would, like, cut out and hang in my locker.
Right.
So crazy. And it's like, the Punisher is very strong, and his will is strong, and he's able to, like, not be so persuaded, except for the Persuader has to step out of the vehicle and, like, use all of his powers of mutant persuasion. This is exactly why I read comics.
Yeah.
How about that costume, though, huh? Yellow and bright yellow boots.
Money.
So goofy.
Can I also? I just want to quickly say, I've got all the original issues, but obviously we're reading these digitally. I love the fact that this issue is not remastered, and we can see the crappy newsprint because I think Sal Buscema's art is so perfectly suited to this, and I love the charm of seeing the faded colors, and just. I don't know. I just think it looks great.
It definitely makes the issue as a whole feel more classic.
Right.
Between the art, the fact that we're reading a scanned copy, the characters even that are being introduced in the costumes feel a little bit corny and old school. And I think it altogether, this comic like fits well with everything that's happening. Like the art, the scans, the characters, the corny costumes, like it all kind of meshes together and vibes really well. Like the tone is consistent throughout.
Right. Judge Julie, you gave your review, right?
I said what I said about Persuader, and that's really all I liked about this book. The art around his eyes, the best. I like Sal Buscema too. What a great artist. Do you know what I don't get? And I was having a conversation about this with my friend Eric the other day. Is like the Punisher. I don't get it. I just don't. Is he just like big and he like kills people? That's his
yeah.
What don't you get?
Okay, I guess I get it, and I just like would rather not.
Right. I
think we should go ahead.
I think we kind of talked about it last episode too with the previous issue, but I think that Punisher always works better when teamed up with a superhero that has stronger morals.
Yes.
Right? Like I think Punisher by himself isn't very interesting. He's just like a dude that kills everybody that's bad. But when he's teamed up with somebody like Spider-Man who's like, yeah, these people are bad, but they don't deserve to die, that's when I think Punisher is most interesting, when he's like teamed up with that morally better character.
Yeah. Also, I'd just like to say, F you, Tombstone. He's got Mary Jane, beautiful, stunning Mary Jane, by her gorgeous red hair. And he's like, I'm just trying to ask you a civil question. It's like, no, jackass, you have her by the hair. There's nothing civil about what you're doing. I would kick him right in his stupid face with her high boots. Like, I'm sure she
tried.
I know.
Yeah, she tried. She kicks him in the belly there.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, but that's why Tombstone's so cool.
Go for the dick, Mary Jane.
Yeah. It's like she's too.
I hope they make.
Short.
You know what's funny? I gotta quickly point out, Sony just announced. Did you guys hear the new movie they announced?
Yeah.
Did you hear about this, Mike Dell?
El Muerto or something like that?
Can you freaking believe Sony owns the rights to every single Spider-Man villain, and they decided to make a movie about that guy? Why don't they make a Tombstone movie?
He's been in two issues of any comic ever.
They're like, we can't make anybody angry with this movie. Joke's on them.
Yeah.
Everyone is angry.
Yeah, it's strange. You know what, Mike? I think you're on the right track. It would be super fun to see like a ground level villain story with like Hammerhead and Tombstone and like a gritty kind of like mob story in the Sony universe. Because then you don't have to do the whole like superhero angle, because obviously they don't do that correctly. they can't seem to handle that too well.
Bex Luthor, what'd you think of this one?
I just have a couple couple things that I just wanted to talk about. First off, love the name Golden Girl on the boat. Very funny. I love Punisher's little trench coat that he takes off immediately. Why does he have a trench coat? He doesn't need a trench coat. He's like, welcome, Spidey, to my love boat. Here's all my guns displayed beautifully on the wall. I love that. What a fop. I'm such a fan of this Punisher. He's ridiculous. And they're just like casually sitting in his boat full of guns. Love that. Love Mary Jane's outfit, the peplum. She's cute. The boots, also cute. Blue outfit, red boots. Love that. But you all guys all know what I'm gonna talk about. Like, hello. I didn't realize that I enjoyed Sal Buscema this much, but thank you for being a friend, Sal, and just giving me some shirtless Frank Castle. Which
Oh,
In a
yeah.
that
towel
towel is
with wet hair.
dangerous.
Cooking.
That towel is dangerous during these fight scenes. I thought for sure they were gonna have like a towel fall steam moment going on. Like, he fights all these dudes in just a towel with wet hair, and he's shooting that gun. I don't even care what happened after that. I'll be honest.
Oh,
None of it matters to me.
speaking of honesty, I think that flaming hot bacon grease is like probably the best weapon ever.
Oh my god, yeah. He's like, there's no way that guy is not blind now.
Right?
Yeah, right in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Right in the-
Crazy.
What a waste of some
I
good
do
eggs.
love. I love that panel. He's just like on his stolen boat full of guns. It's just a towel, cooking some eggs and bacon, and he's like, "Well, time to get ambushed, I guess," and just whips it, and the bacon, little pieces flying everywhere. I do like that a lot. That is a probably not meant to be funny, but this very funny to me part of this book.
Yeah.
I love how wholesome and homey it is. Just Frank Castle. Does he have a shower on his houseboat?
Yeah.
Did he just come in from the water? I don't know. Was he skinny dipping? I think he was skinny dipping.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a fun scene. Okay, can we talk about MJ?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can she not be a damsel anymore? Come on.
That sucks that she's a damsel again. 2, we've recessed into her not being a fan of Peter Parker being Spider-Man again. Like, come on. It's so annoying. Like, it was fine when that was her whole deal, right? Like, she's unsure of him being a superhero and what's going on, but they got over that together. She is with Peter because she likes the fact that he is Spider-Man. And I like when they're working together to like hide his identity, or like she's kind of like helping him out with whatever's going on in his like Spider-Man world. But this really sucks that we have to be like, oh, I don't like that he's Spider-Man. I'm always so scared that he's gonna die. And it's like, we've gone through this already. And it especially when it's contrasted with like the Amazing issue where she's like kind of like joking around with the fact that like he's out being Spider-Man while she's having friends over. Like, she's like a part of Peter's life at that point.
But here's
this
the
one,
thing, though.
it's like, I don't know.
But not once does she say that, though. All she says is she's scared of losing him, and it's specifically because of what's happening with Tombstone.
She doesn't want to even talk to him about, like, he's like, hey, here's what's going on. Like, what do you think about it? She's like, don't talk to me about it. Like, this is your moral decision, not mine. It's like, are you kidding? That's not who MJ is at this point.
You're married. His problem is your problem now. But yeah, I thought they were a team. I thought that we had gone past that, where she was like, I'm not interested in your Spider-Man
She's
shenanigans.
shocked
Like,
when he kisses her. Like, what is happening? It's so weird.
I don't know. I didn't read it that way. I just read it as Tombstone is in the picture and everyone's scared to death of him. That's how I read it. I didn't read it as a Spider-Man thing at all.
Really? She even says, Peter, this is your, in like bold, your moral decision, not mine.
Yeah, but that's because that's because he was given the tape by Joe Robertson, and he has the choice of whether or not he wants to betray him by giving it away, even though Joe Robertson doesn't want to, or he can give it away and therefore expose Tombstone, but risk possible retaliation, which is what ends up happening, because Tombstone ends up coming to the apartment anyway and harming MJ, which is what she was scared about in the first place, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I thought we were past her just being scared and kidnapped at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's ask our special guest, Mike Dell. What do you think?
Whatever.
Okay, so yeah, on to the next. Okay, what'd you think of the rest of the issue?
This was my favorite of the 3 issues. I really liked Sal's art, and this seems like a more classic Spider-Man-y book, I would say. I don't know. But I enjoyed this most of the 3. Although, hey, if you kids want to know more about the true origins of the Punisher, go read the Executioner series of novels by Don Pendleton, and then you can know where Gerry Conway stole the idea.
That's true. That's fine, though. That's fine. And then you can read Doc Savage after that, right?
Yes.
Talk with one.
Anyway. Okay, so... yeah, so I guess we all recommend this one. Wait, did you give your full review, Mike Dell?
Yeah, that's it.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Okay, that was it. Okay. I was saving the best for last, but anyway. Julie,
I think I started off, right? Because I talked about Sal early on in the
Okay, that's right. That's right. So yeah, I definitely recommend this one. Again, when I was a kid, I didn't like this one as much as the McFarlane issues, but now that we're going back and reading it, yeah, this is my favorite. I love the story. I love the art. I love our pal, Sal. So I definitely recommend this one. G.I. Julie, what about you?
I recommend this one too. I like this one the best out of the 3 that we read today.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. This Tombstone stuff is shaping up to be fun. I guess. Also, I was reminded of Punisher's breakfast shenanigans and am reinvigorated to see him in this book.
Awesome.
So stupid.
Josh, do you recommend this one?
Yeah, it's pretty solid. Besides the MJ stuff, I think it's a pretty good issue. I'm loving Tombstone and his whole deal. Robbie Robertson being more involved in the story is great. Yeah, I'd recommend this one.
All right, Bex Luthor.
Yeah, I mean, just for the shirtless Punisher stuff, go for it. It was okay. It continues the story pretty decently. I do like that the Punisher just gets absolutely tricked. That's pretty funny. The finale or the reveal of the Persuader. Been waiting months for that.
It was clearly worth it though, right? All those months to see that.
No.
Yeah, my favorite character finally. Here he is, Royland Rayburn, the Persuader. You think Sony has the rights to that?
Oh yeah,
one?
there you go. That's a blockbuster right there.
That's the only way they're going to make money on any of these Sony ones is if they get the Persuader to come out and hypnotize everybody into paying to watch their movies.
Well, he's a mutant, didn't you
Joke's
know?
on him.
Yeah.
It's the second way that they get the X-Men into the world.
Mike Dell, do you recommend this one?
Yeah, I started off, remember? And I said, yeah, I recommend it.
Did you?
Yeah.
What in tarnation? Okay.
Ever since Mike L got taken into that love cult, he hasn't been the same.
Yeah,
That's
and I've
true.
been persuaded.
So, Mike Dell, why don't you tell us and the audience where we can find you and the podcast and where we can find all your stuff?
Don't find me anywhere. I like to be left alone. But Flea Market Fantasy with Mike L. Every when is that, Mike L? Do you put it up? Is that Tuesday?
Every Tuesday.
Right here on YouTube's and Spotify, right? Mike L, name them all. Mike L always names them all. Name them all.
YouTube,
wherever you can find
Facebook, not Twitter. Let's see, the website, Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts.
And I also crack wise on the LCS Hockey Radio Show every Friday. And I'm sure Jolie will be coming over to tell us about her comic book store. That'll be great.
I can do that as long as the 3 of us, me, Josh, and Becca, can come on and talk about Big Brother soon.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say hockey.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
I posted in the chat my Mario Lemieux doll.
Oh, nice.
Saw that.
Yeah,
No, I did not see that.
That is the doll that I had.
I didn't even know they had Mario Lemieux dolls.
It's like a Barbie doll. Yeah, I slept with that for like a good couple while. I loved him.
That looks exactly
All
like
right.
him.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah, it
creepy
did.
how much it looks like him.
Ages 4 to 104. Yikes.
Jeez.
I was definitely was at 98. I was definitely like 6.
All right,
All right,
well,
be sure to join us next week as we review Cult of Love Part 3. An issue of Amazing Spider-Man featuring the Black Fox. Remember him?
yes.
And the
He's the-
continuation of the Tombstone storyline. And we'll be joined by very special guest David Constantino. So be sure to join us, everybody.
That sounds like a
Yep.
good one.
Yes. And I want to thank G.I. Jolie and Bex Luther for joining us as usual. And special guest Mike Dell from the LCS Hockey Radio Show and Flea Market Fantasy for joining us.
As usual,
And
you're welcome.
Yeah.
yeah. And until next Monday, see you later.